Alright, let's make sure that I'm on camera here. Back to the real camera this time. A little update on R2D2. With some careful masking after the blue, I started the first coat of white. You can still see some of the overspray of the blue on there, and some of the gray underneath, and obviously on the back where I haven't painted on this piece still. However, I did get probably enough white on the body. Still have the areas where I painted blue masked off. I don't know if I'm pretty sure the blue painting video didn't work, so I'll have to cover that when I take the masking tape off. But I used Tester's fluorescent blue. Really bright blue, but when I looked at the reference pictures, it really is kind of bright blue. And I'm going to be modeling this in the Tatooine dirty, grungy mode. Mostly, I originally was going to do clean version, but after putting Alclad on the dome, I noticed there's some scratches and my sanding job wasn't that great. So when they tell you that Alclad is not forgiving, that you have to have a perfect surface, they're not kidding. So masking this off was rather interesting. I used Tamiya tape over the areas, and then I traced with a fresh blade around where the indentations were, around each panel where there's supposed to be blue, and peeled off the excess. Looks like I have a couple of spots where it peeled up, but hopefully the Tester's fluorescent blue will cover over any spots when I do touch-up. So that's where we've gotten so far. She needs another coat of white. As you can see here, didn't get the back at all, and the white isn't fully covering. I do have an interesting problem with this piece. I don't know if you can see it on camera, but there's a pull on the piece where it looks like a knife blade sliced into it. I don't remember doing that myself, but I'm going to have to patch that before I finish the white painting. So, let's see what happens next. Alright, well, I got the other coat of white on there, and things are looking pretty good. Too bad. I decided to leave the boo-boos and just make it part of the weathering process. There's also a lot of cruft. I don't know if you're going to be able to see it if I zoom in. It doesn't want to focus. Come on, focus. You're in close-up mode. Okay, there we go. You can see there's some splatter that came out and some boo-boos. That's going to end up being dust, so it doesn't really matter that it's on there, but normally I would try and wipe that out, repaint it, or sand it down afterwards. And the interesting thing about airbrushing, I happen to have lucked out. My first airbrush, by complete coincidence, was a Badger 360. This is a neat airbrush because you can take the cup, turn it upside down, and make it a siphon feed. Or if you want to do small amounts of colors, you can use it for that. Now, this was great except for the small cup is really small and the siphon tends to use a lot of paint. So I wanted something in between, and I did a little research and I found out that the chrome was the right way to go. And I love this. The fine line work is awesome. This airbrush works great. But it all couldn't happen without one piece of equipment. And this is pretty sad, but pretty exciting at the same time. That is a really old airbrush compressor. Now this airbrush compressor actually came from a model shop. And here's the moral of the story. When you go to a local shop, a local let's put you back over here. Yeah, there we go. Get some light on me. Alright. When you go to a local hobby shop, you're supporting a local worker, somebody that lives in your community, somebody that's going to spend their money locally as well, and you help your local economy. You also make it a little bit selfishly possible for these guys to be there when you need that one last extra bottle of color that you want to finish painting a model, and you don't want to wait a couple of days for it to come in the mail. Well, another side benefit of this is a lot of these people are hobbyists themselves, and they learn and they move forward and they upgrade their equipment, and sometimes you can get their old equipment cheap, or in this case free. I walked into one of my local hobby shops. I was looking for a compressor. I had $400 in my pocket. I was willing to spend the big bucks for a real compressor. When I mentioned it, the owner saw that I was buying 4 kits, went over to the model railroad section and pulled out this compressor out of a box and said, "I'm not using this anymore. This is a Speedy Sprayer by W.R. Brown Corp. It's tiny, but it's adequate." And then I added the moisture trap and the pressure gauge so that I could have better control, and some quick disconnects, but it has been a workhorse for all of my airbrushing learning. Well, for Christmas this year, my wife treated me to a new compressor, and no, John, I didn't get the same thing that you did. Nice purchase, by the way. I'm going with a Badger TC 910. Amazon is out of stock right now, but they have it listed for $139. And that's usually over $300. So I figured that would be a nice upgrade from this compressor and get me a little bit steadier airflow and a little bit more control. So next up on the R2, we're going to remove the masks. Now I know, and you'll see in some of the pictures that I put earlier, that some of the masks pulled up a little bit. That's okay. I'll be brush painting to fix that up. So let's take a look and see what we got. Alrighty, let's get some of these masks off. I'll try and keep my fat fingers from being in the way. You get to see, as I do, whether it works. Well, looks like I've got a little bit of silver bleed right here. Get one more off on the top here. And I did get it. Nope, that was just a little bit of cruft. So that looks pretty good. Let's take off the front mask here. All in all, I'm saying that this is pretty much a success. Where's one of the edges for the band? Get that started. Oh my! Well, thankfully, all that metal flake is coming from the tape, not the paint job. Woo-hoo-hoo. That would not be fun. So I'm not going to bore you by pulling this all off on tape, but as you can see, looks like it came out pretty good. A little bit of touch-up to do. And let me get the rest of the tape off, and I'll give you a peek. And voila! The tape is off. Now you can see there are spots like here and here where we had some bleed through. That's okay. Here's a little silver bleed through here. And a little bit more here. Here we have a problem where I nicked the alclad while I was removing the tape. I also nicked the blue here, so I have a little spot there. That one's going to be easy to fix. That one, not so much. But not too bad for my first try. And a lot better than I would have been able to do with a brush by hand. So some detail paint on this piece, coat of future, and then some more detail paint, because some of these things are shiny, some of these things are not, and we'll be good to go. R2 is starting to look a little bit like R2. See you next time, guys.